All right, guys, welcome to All Outdoors with Muc Simons. Tonight's kind of special. It's just the three of us, Blair, Darren, and myself. And what we're going to talk about tonight is a year-end wrap-up. We're going to talk about some of the different guests we've had on the program. We're going to talk about stories from hunting this year and fall and how we've been getting through with COVID and how it's affected the industry. And we're just going to have some fun tonight, just the three of us. We got bringing nobody on, but we're going to reminisce about the shows we've had. I think this is episode 12, which would mean roughly we did one every month. I know it didn't work out that way. Some we had a little bit more than others, but yeah, we sort of kept it balanced to about one a month, which is perfect. We've tried to cover all aspects of the outdoors. I'd like to see some stuff coming up this year. We talk about camping and we talk about. I'd like to have a survival guy person on, somebody that could teach us about survival. Anyways, it's going to be a great program tonight. Got Darren and Blair. One thing that if you guys like our program, feel free to the our Facebook page as well as on YouTube, All Outdoors. Feel free to hit the subscribe button. It helps us out. So if you like our program, hit the like. Anyways, fellas, how's things going for you guys? Got over the Christmas rush and New Year's, and Happy New Year to you guys.
Yep, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year as well.
So I think back to the first program we had, Darren, where we had Les and Cody on, and yourself and myself, and we've come actually a long ways. We've covered a lot of topics, and we've had some pretty interesting characters on throughout the year, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think we got things started off with a bang with Les and Cody. Anybody that watches any of the outdoor shows like Wild TV, they'll be familiar with those guys. Cody's a true storyteller. What you see kind of on screen is what you get, and same thing with Les. Les isn't as colorful as Cody, but very passionate about the coyotes and the now he's into doing some outfitting. So I think started with a bang with those two guys, and it took off from there.
Yeah, and I think back to an interesting person we had on there was Jill from the Tick Awareness Canada. That it blows me away the information that lady had about ticks and the information. I made her a promise that I'm going to save the ticks that I get this year from bear hunting, and I'm going to send them to her.
Yeah, someone who didn't really have a background, and the thing that motivated her was her son's illness.
Right.
I thought that was very passionate that she wasn't getting any answers, and just kind of on a whim, someone had mentioned about ticks, and she was reading about ticks, and that's where her passion started from. And I think what the other big thing that kind of motivates me to push what she does is she does it out of her pocket. Like, it's all nonprofit. Most of the money that comes into that organization is out of her pocket that keeps it going. And they had a couple fundraisers throughout the year. So I think it's really important as outdoors people, we get caught up with, the latest and greatest thing when it comes out on TV, and we got to have it. But when it's people like that are doing things in the industry, we really need to support those people. So, the Tick Canada, with Jill at Tick Canada, we really need to promote her and get her message out there for sure.
I'm really surprised that she doesn't have either provincial or federal funding for that. As many, the disease that you get from ticks is very prevalent.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with some of the wives' tales that we were even getting clarification on. Maybe people don't realize that how big of a concern it is with not only humans but with animals. And we've been living with ticks for a long time, and we still don't know the ramifications of everything that happens. And maybe it takes a politician or something like that to be affected by it before it can get some more feet under it. But we definitely need to be pushing, the work of those types of people that they're doing out there.
Oh yeah, like there's way more ticks nowadays, and so many more people I know of are getting Lyme disease. Like, it's crazy. Like you said, you'd think there'd be more awareness, more provincial or federal funding into programs like that, because not a lot of people know anything about ticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll from 2 years ago when I got my bear to the bear I got this last spring. uh I would say there's probably a 200% decrease from my bear in the same bait, same spot this year than there was 2 years ago. It was so bad 2 years ago that they were crawling all on every inch of the body, so bad that I had to go and get a insect killing and sprayed the whole bear down. And even when I caped it out, took it to the taxidermist, he put it on the floor. It just was crawling. But this year
Really?
there was hardly any on my bear.
Hmm. That's weird. And like some of the stuff she was talking about, like, in the wintertime they can find ticks. People are like, oh well, we can flood them out or we can drown them, and that's not true either. So, some of the things that was coming out of her mouth that kind of resonate with you now, with tick awareness and the severity of those things. I thought she was one of the we had very good guests this whole year, but I thought she was one of the better guests that with education wise, I thought she did a great job. So
I agree. Blair, is there anybody that sticks out from guests that we had on this year?
Well, no, you guys had a lot of good guests on this year from waterfowl to elk. No, it was a good season. Like they were all really good. Like George Lynch was good and Dieter Kaboth and it was really good.
Well, one thing about when we do elk in particular, and I think elk strikes a chord with so many people. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned elk hunter or a newbie when it comes to elk calling. It's something about those elk that get people interested in. Well, I mean that's really where my background comes, is from calling elk, and of course I've done every aspect of hunting, but it's something about when you have an elk program, it just everybody wants to tune in. And I don't know if it's just the way the animals are or what it is, but yeah, that was a great program. Those two guys, uh, of course, I am not disappointed if 1 or 500 people watches our program. But what I'll say is the amount of talent we had on that program alone, with the knowledge of Dieter and Travis, was just amazing. I mean, you really, Darren, you're a promoter, and so you would know what it takes to get talent like that involved, and to have those two guys on is incredible.
yeah, to get one of them to come to a show, let alone having two on the same program the same night was pretty special, I would say.
Well, and I don't think we talked a whole lot about it, but when I went to the World Elk Calling Championships in 2003, so I sort of know how the program works. And like in Dieter's case, he won it 4 times, and Travis won it the one time, but they won it in the pro division. Like there's several different divisions that you can go, amateur, blah blah, mechanical, or you can go voice or stuff like that. But those guys won it in the pro division. So I mean, there really is that really is a worldwide competition. So to have those guys in there, or on our program, was so amazing. And I mean, I've called elk my entire life, and I learned a lot from those two guys.
Yeah, no doubt. Another guest we had on, just kind of a grassroots guy that has done really well for himself. Steve Yonish. I
Yeah.
know, he was another good one. He's got a wide swath of things he's done in his career, and now he's he's an outfitter and stuff now. But just some of the stories I've not even on the show, but other stuff he's been into my classroom and talked to some of my students about having a career in the outdoors and some of the things he's done, like tag sturgeon one summer. That was his job, is to fish for sturgeon and tag them. And they were doing a bunch of remote tracking with these sturgeon to see what the spawning grounds were. Like, just people that that you walk down the street, you can see them in your hometown with some specialty, have some specialty things like that in their resume. Just phenomenal information that came out of that session as well as Steve.
Yeah. Steve, he was a great guy for sure. Um, one of my really close friends uh, works at a school and said that they had a survival guide on, or there to teach outdoor ed for the kids. And that was super interesting to hear that, because I'd like to have that person on our program, because teaching how to build fires, the very fundamentals of camping or survival in the outdoors. But I think that's something that we should look at doing, because when I was a kid, that was very common to have people come into schools to teach that kinds of stuff. Matter of fact, I mean, I'm old enough that I can say that when I went to school, it was still hunter education was still kind of hand in hand with the school. Like you signed up through the school and stuff like that, and it wasn't uncommon for somebody to bring in a 22 to talk to the kids about that. But if you did that these days and age, oh,
Be a
you'd
lockdown.
be arrested. But
Yeah.
so I'd like to see a survival person on. That'd be super interesting. Clayton Schick was one of our good one of our guests about fishing, and I will have to say that after having that program on and listen to Clayton, I know when I went walleye fishing, and it was a lot different with the tips that he talked about.
Yeah. Clayton, he's got quite a following. The last number of years, he's done really good work with promoting himself and getting videos and stuff out there. And I know firsthand, every morning my two boys are watching Clayton Chick videos, and they're talking the lingo, and I know more about frostbite fishing, ice fishing rods and hooks, and the stuff that's Clayton's doing, and yeah, it's been really good, and I'm glad to see, and I hope it's more than just my two boys, but I'm glad to see that hunting shows, or things that are on YouTube that are with the outdoors are very common, and people are watching them. I know it takes a lot. I can't imagine how long it takes Clayton to set up that setup. Probably over an hour to set up all of his camera angles and the supplies that he has to take with him on those trips. Hats off to him. I hope big things for him. And like I said, he's one of those other guys that what you see on camera is the guy you see in front of you. He was in the back alley here the other day. We had just had a conversation in our back alley, social distancing, of course, and he was talking about some of the things he's got planned and lined up. And he brought a couple toques over for my boys, and they wore them on their the next trip we went out on to Beautiful Lake up at the Charles Lake Duck Mountain area. So they were pretty excited about that. It's funny because I opened up the garage door and there he was standing there, and Nate walked in. He's like, just kind of perplexed that Clayton Schick was in our garage there having a chat about fishing. So I thought that was pretty special.
My favorite programs from this last year, hands down, has to be our bear one, and that's when we invited Blair first on. And Blair, I mean, you've only missed a couple of our programs, so you're every bit a part of this program as Darren and I. But the bear, like bear is hands down next to elk hunting. Bear is my favorite animal to hunt. I've said it in all my presentations that if you're getting somebody into hunting, there's
Yeah.
nothing that's more economical and more successful than running a bear hunt, because it doesn't take a whole lot to get the bait set up, and then because you're drawing them to them, you can be selective, and you can take a small bear or a big bear. It's whatever you like. But our program that we had, that 2-part program where we had the bear essentials and then we had the equipment, I've got a lot of positive feedback, because I think there's a lot of people out there that think it's daunting to go bear hunting. And I mean, other than finding the area to do it at, I think it's very manageable. And I mean, that's where we brought Blair in. And Blair, over the year, you and I've spent a lot of time together doing some hunting and stuff like that, and I've gotten to know you really well. And you're the man of all trades. I'll have to say that for sure.
No, I enjoyed that. And yeah, you're right. Bear hunting's fun. And it's something that you can get kids involved with. Like first time hunters, I'd say bear and mule deer are probably your best bets to get kids involved with, and fishing. But yeah, the bear aspect of it, I like that. And I love bear hunting. And I had a good bear season. I shot a nice bear this spring, and
Why don't you
turned
tell
out
us that
really good.
story? Why don't you tell us that story?
Oh, yeah, well, I had that bear on camera for 6, 7 years, and I never had a chance to hunt it because I was always guiding. So me and my daughter went out and put the bait out, and he never showed up all of May on camera. And then all of a sudden, it was like June 1st or June 2nd, he showed up. I come back from work at 3 in the afternoon. He was hooked up with a sow. So then I started hunting him that Tuesday evening I hunted him. Then Wednesday morning, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, and then I got him Thursday night. But yeah, no, it was something else. Like he was with that sow when I shot Tuesday night. He wouldn't come right in. I couldn't get a shot. Wednesday morning, same thing. Wednesday night, it was so windy, I thought I was going to fly out of the tree stand. Thursday morning, And because it was windy Wednesday night, nothing come in, and then I knew it was going to be all nocturnal activity. So all the bears fed all night. So I knew I have to walk in and sneak in on them. And I snuck in on the bait side right at legal light. The sow was eating at the barrel. And I waited and waited. Sure enough, he come broadside. He come into about 30 yards, and I drew back, and then he bolted. But I don't think he winded me or scared me, because the sow just kind of stood up and walked away. And then I went walking after him, and I didn't get too close. So I just went back in the stand, and then I only had one more night actually to hunt. And then I wasn't going to hunt because I got called to work, and then I got called to work, and then my trip got canceled. So Thursday evening, I had an opportunity. I got in the tree stand at 5 o'clock. Sal come in to feed at 8. About 10 minutes, she took off, and then 10 minutes later, he lost her and couldn't find her track. He come running through the bait site, and I was looking at another bear behind me in the ladder stand, so I couldn't even get a shot. And then I thought I blew it. And then about 12 minutes later, he come around again on a big circle through the bait site looking for that sow. But this time I was ready, and I had my rifle because that was my last evening to hunt. And normally when they're locked up with a sow and heat, you've only got a 3-4 day window to shoot them. And it worked out, and I anchored him right at the barrel.
How big of a bear was it, Blair?
532 pounds, 22 and 4/16.
That's an absolute
Well,
monster.
yeah, it's a once in a lifetime color phase bear.
Yeah, he's brown too, wasn't he? Brown like
yeah. No, he's a beautiful chocolate color, like beautiful. His hide was pristine. And he had about, I'd say, 4,000 to 5,000 ticks on him.
Did he really?
I was spraying. Well, they didn't detach till about 24 hours later, and I had him in the box of my truck, taking him to bear camp to skin. And they started coming out on his hide. But what I would do is I had him laying flat in the truck box. I'd spray him down with Raid, drive a couple miles, blow all the dead ticks off, stop, spray him with Raid, drive a couple miles with the wind would blow all the ticks off.
You're spreading ticks all over the country.
What are you doing? Yeah. What are you doing with that bear of a lifetime? What's your plans?
Well, no, I'm getting a full body mounted. He's
nice.
The hides, it's already tanned. It's at Orion Taxidermy in Moose Jaw.
Nice. I got since we did the program, I did get a bear with my bow. About 300 and I think he was 325 pounds, but my nephew Landon got his first bear. He's about 350. My bear, it's my second bear with the bow now. I've only killed 3 bears, but 2 with the bow. And last year's bear was 18 and 5/16. And this one was 18 and 4/16. So, really close together. The bear last year, I'm getting Donnie Wolk. He was on our program. I'm getting him to do a half mount on him with the front legs and stuff. And he was quite a bit heavier than this year's bear. He was just shy of 400, whereas this year was only like 325, but he had a good head on him. So it was great. It's Murphy's Law. Like I had my camera mounted to the frame of the ladder stand, and when I went to make the decision, like I had looked at this bear for a couple of days and I passed him up numerous times, and the night that I shot him, there was 9 bears that were coming around. So there was quite a lull in my bears. Like I had so many bears coming in at the beginning of my baits, like 10, 15 different bears every night. And then at the end of May, it just dropped right off. I lost even the sows and cubs that were coming in. I lost them, and I just had the young ones coming in. So I was kind of worried that, something had happened. And, and then I talked with you, Blair, and it said it's very common for that to happen. So I planned my holidays so that the beginning of June, I was going to be done this particular year. And so what had happened was I passed that bear up lots, but that night that I got him, there was about 8 different bears that came in, and he was by far the biggest. And he was putting on a show, and he's popping and snapping. So I remember when I decided that I was going to take him, because I was sitting there thinking, that's an 18-inch bear. What am I doing? And so I went to turn the camera on because the bear came around the tree and laid down right in front of basically where I shot my bear last year, almost in the exact same spot. And I went to turn my camera on, and it was dead. I don't know why. So somehow I must have turned it on the way in, and it was running the whole time. And so it was dead. So then I had this little camera and with me as a backup. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with this thing? And in hindsight, I should have taped it to the tree stand, but I taped it to my stabilizer, and I got really good footage. But when I let go with the arrow, it just shook so bad that you could see the light and not go, and then the bear takes off. But it was fun. It was a really good bear. Darren came up one evening, sat with me. We did see some bears, not the target bear. I had one good bear that was at the site that Darren came to, but he didn't show up that night. But I'm hoping that you and one of your boys can come up this year for at least an evening or two and show your boy what it's like. And
Yeah, Nate turns 12 this year, so
when does he turn 12? Like, when's his date?
he's March,
Hmm.
so he's pretty
Same as
excited.
Ryan.
Yeah, he's pretty excited to get going, get his hunter safety, and that's kind of who knows what's happening with COVID with that. We're trying to get him a hunter safety and take a course. We'd like him to do it face to face if they're going to offer it, but yeah, he's pretty excited, so we're hoping.
Well, that's what I did with Ryan. Ryan turned 12 in March, and April he got his hunter safety, and then June he got his bear with his bow
Hmm. Yeah, he's
up
pretty
at
excited.
up at my buddy Doug's. But yeah, so bear hunting was really good. Lannon's hunt was pretty exciting. Um, Lannon was really picky on the bears. Like we had some 300 plus pound bears come in, and Lannon, like, we had this 500 pounder in, and he couldn't get that out of his head. Good on him. He just kept saying, "No, I want." We called him, nicknamed him War Pig, and then we had one that had a big divot out of his forehead. We called him Divot Head. They're both about 500 pounders, and Landon could not get those bears out of his head. So, and then of course the one night after about 4 or 5 days of hunting, he calls home in the typical. I don't know what happened in that phone call, but he come downstairs from the lodge. He's like, I was thinking about it. I might take that one bear if he comes in, and so the next day this bear that we had labeled Shaggy, um, and he'd been cut like when we were coming in to bait. This boar Shaggy was coming in while we were baiting, and actually one time while we are checking the camera, the card on the camera, that bear climbed right up on Lannon's quad. So I'm like, why are you passing this bear up? This is a 350-pound boar. And he had some gnarly scars on him and stuff like that. And Lannon's like, well, I want a war pig. So after talking to his wife, he decided that maybe, why am I being so picky? It's a great bear. So the next day we decided, well, if we'll go in and bait, and then we'll leave and we'll sneak back in, because Landon really wanted to shoot his bear from the ground. Like, he had it in his mind that he didn't really want to shoot it out of the tree stand. He wanted to be on the level with him. And so I said, well, I'll tell you what, for 2 days in a row that we came there, Shaggy came in like clockwork at 11 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll go in with the quad, we'll bait it, we'll drive out, park the quads out in the edge of the bush, and then we'll walk in. If he's there, and it couldn't have worked out any better. We went in there, we made lots of racket around the bait so that he knew we were there. We refreshed the bait, we drove the quads out, and then we snuck in. And I was running the camera, and Landon, and sure enough, just like clockwork, Shaggy was at the bait when we snuck in, and Landon ended up shooting that bear at 6 yards from the ground. It was incredible.
I got just a question. Bears, are they like deer? Like the male is trying to breed as many females as possible, or they pick a sow and they breed that sow and that's it? Is that a goofy question, or I'm just kind of curious?
No. Um, Normally it's usually one or two sows they'll breed. Like that big brown that I shot had that sow, and the other monster black on the bait picked that sow and heat up not even 18 hours after I killed him. Like, and then he'll breed her. They only get 3-4 days, usually end of May, beginning of June. And a lot of times they'll follow him. They'll spend a week following around till they come into standing heat, and then they'll get close to him for 2-3 days, then breed him. So they basically only get a chance to breed one or two sows, them big
So they,
mature boars.
so they got to work pretty hard for those one or two. Okay.
Yeah, like they follow him around. A lot of them will follow him for. I've seen boars walk following sows by like the 20th of May, and not end up breeding until like June 2nd. They'll follow them. They'll lock up with one. They'll particular one they want to follow her, and she'll kick them off and chase them off all the time and keep them a long ways off till she's ready. She'll swat them and scratch them and scar them and bite them and beat the crap out of them.
Are they still? Do they still have their like? Do they have the yearlings with them at that time, or they
it
kick them
it
out?
depends. some sows will throw the yearlings off, or 2-year-olds even. I've even seen 3-year-olds. Sows will keep 3-year-olds. It all depends on how they cycle. Usually every second year, and they'll either kick the cubs off or they'll get big enough. It all depends. It varies.
Yeah. Well, the bear numbers I think are still pretty high in the province, are they not?
Yeah, no, the bear numbers, I don't think, since we didn't have any outfitting, and even though we did have 2 tags, not a lot of people shot 2 bears. And then because there's no outfitting in the forest, the bear population never took really any kind of a hit.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's definitely on the incline. No, even by the COs saying this summer in the parks and stuff, a lot more issues they've had with the cabin owners and stuff all around the parks in Saskatchewan, even in the North Country here, like Greenwater and the Duck Mountains and up in McBride, and that they've had a lot more issues with bears.
I think of bear hunting, and uh, I have to think back to Tammy Wood that we had on the program, Darren, and what a character she is, and what an amazing chef she is. But the fact that she's a big bear advocate of eating bear, and I know Ryan, my son, and I, we love bear meat. Like, I just won't make everything I can out of bear meat. I meatloaf out of bear. I just made some jalapeno poppers, stuffed to, wrapped with bear meat and stuff like that. I really like bear meat. I don't really, I have a hard time uh, seeing the stigma that some people does to eating bear. I mean, I think they think it's a predator or something like that, so they don't want to eat it. But if it prepared correctly, it's very, very good meat.
I think a lot of people get hung up by dump bears or garbage dump bears.
Right.
They see them at pictures of them at garbage dump, picking through garbage, etc., etc. But a bush bear, eat the, they're carnivores, right? They eat grass, they eat all sorts of different stuff, grubs, whatever. But I think a bush bear is quite a bit different than a dump bear, and I think people might get hung up on that much.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I don't like that. Actually, a good point, because I've never shot a bear at a garbage dump. But I guess if I did, I don't know how I would feel about eating the meat, because knowing
Yeah,
that it was picking through the trash. But I think I probably still would. But
yeah,
Well,
I
the thing is too, a lot of hunters feed bears rotten meat and gross beavers are stinking and rotten, and then you can barely sit in the tree stand if the wind's wrong and the bait's blowing right in the face. And then they kill a bear and they think, oh my God, it's been eating all that rotten meat all spring. I don't want to eat it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? You're right. Like it's like they think it's just gross.
yeah.
I like the hindquarters and the backstrap of a bear. If you trim it up, like, I'm not a big fan of the fat. And Darren, I want you to tell your story about making your bear fat, rendering your bear fat. But I'm not a big fan of bear fat. I just find it's really overly greasy. Like,
It's very greasy.
when you put it in your mouth, like, if it's not cooked correctly. Now, I know Tammy's the opposite. Like, when she was on the program, she explained that she loves cooking with the bear fat.
Yeah.
But for me, the text, the it's super, super greasy.
That bear fat, it's like a Smartie. If you leave it in your hand long enough, it'll just melt in your hand. That's how it just melts. It's so crazy. Well, the story, Muck pulled up to my house and he had a big slab of bear fat. I actually asked him to keep it for me because I had heard so many good things about bear fat. And my wife teaches biology here at our school, and she has a medicine man come in and talk to her class about natural medicines as part of the what she does with the curriculum. And when she had her first child, um, you know, she had experienced some stretching marks from carrying. And when the medicine man had come in the second time we were expecting, he brought her some bear grease, rendered down some bear fat. And he said that traditionally ladies, First Nation ladies, would use it on their stomachs, and it could be used on many different things, on your hair, waterproofing your boots, your tent, cooking with all sorts of different things. So I've been wanting to get some of my own and try rendering it. I was able to get Muc's and I cubed it. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and stuff like that, and I was able to cube it down. And then I took a slow cooker, um, and I put it in there. And I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to put this in the house. might stink up the house. So I took it outside and I actually set it inside my barbecue and was able to keep the lid down and to contain that heat. And I actually had it on low, like a low heat, and that's what was recommended. And I was just like a kid at Christmas. I was just checking it like every 10 minutes. I probably wasn't good for it, but I was stirring it and kind of following the directions. And obviously, I was trying to speed up the process because I was pretty anxious to see what it was going to be like. So I actually turned it up and then got busy in the garage and come back out. And somebody must have thought our house was on fire because I had a pretty good grease fire going with the smoke and stuff. And I looked, and here I actually overcooked it, and the renderings were all crinkled down and stuff, and it was a little darker than it should have been because I had the heat a little bit too high. But I rendered it, got some cheesecloth and rendered it, and I actually added some essential oils to it, some mint. I put some into mint and then some into orange, just because some the original stuff that we had a bit of a scent to it, and I put some essential oils into it to kind of just mask that scent, and didn't mix it too strong. But I've given quite a bit away to staff members or some other people that would wanted to try it, and I was able to keep with uh, First Nations traditions. And obviously, you can't sell products, wildlife products. So I just said to them, to honor a First Nations tradition, I'll trade you something for it. And what I got people to do was I actually got them to make a donation to the food bank. So if they wanted some bear grease, I gave them some. And then this one lady came and she brought a whole big box of stuff for the food bank. So I was able to donate that to the food bank, and then they had some bear grease to try. Some people just wanted to try it. Some people wanted to put some arthritis essential oils in it that rub on their skin. I know some people were using. One person used it on her gloves, on her shoes, and just spoke very highly of it. So yeah, we got still got lots of my my supply. I gave some to Muck for his shoulder wound, and yeah, we've been using it. So my son uses it on his arms. He's got some issues with his arms. So he's been using it on that. It seems to be working. So
I think the fact that you had the grease fire is what the best part of that is, because every YouTube video I've seen, they all use a slow cooker, and like they're pretty
yeah,
cautious about what they do. But I will say that it's pretty amazing the amount of fat that you do and then how
it
liquefied
gets
it gets, hey?
liquefied. And like I said, the
And
crazy part, even when it's rendered down, I was able to put it all into pill bottles or pill containers, some bigger, some smaller. If you happen to leave that at room temperature, it just instantly just turns back to liquid form. It's crazy how quickly it melts. So yeah,
that's awesome. So we had Tim Jenny on the one of our last guests with Tim Jenny. So Tim called me a week after our program, and he's like, "Muck, you got to come out ice fishing with you." And I'll tell you what, I did up a little, I think 7-8 minute video that I posted about that. But man, I'll tell you what, hit Tim and Travis and John, the guys that I got to fish with that day. I had more fun watching those guys. I mean, they're all three are basically tournament pros, right? They go in the tournaments and all that kind of stuff. But I had more fun watching those guys and learning from them than I did fishing. I caught the first two fish of the day, and then after that, I just tried to get some video and did some fishing. But just watching what they did, it's no wonder that they're as successful as they are. Like it's just incredible when you go with somebody.
yeah, those guys are considered to be pros, right? Watch somebody doing a craft that they're really good at. And even the stuff that Tim was relaying in his video, the video that we shot with him here, just technique and talking about colors and ice safety and all those things. Obviously, very proud of the things that he knows and was able to share those with people. And I read I watched the video over again, and I was actually reading the comments as I was watching. A lot of people were like, you got to have them back on. We need to hear about specific colors, and you got to, what about this and what about that, which is really good to get that feedback. And I'm
Right.
sure Tim would come back on and specifically talk about, the certain PK lures, and because that's what that's his the brand that sponsors him. But people really ate that up because let's be honest, in Saskatchewan, ice fishing is huge, right? People love doing that as a pastime in Saskatchewan. So yeah, it was a very good guest to have on for sure to talk about, ice and ice technique and so forth and so on.
So Darren and Blair, was there a hunt or an outdoor adventure that sticks in your mind this year? COVID aside and all that kind of stuff that's going on, was there a hunt or something that you guys did in the outdoors that you could share, and a story or a hunting story that sticks in your mind? And I'll tell you what, I'll let you guys think about it because I have one in particular that's pretty amazing. That's the first time for me. So Ryan, my son, and one of my best friends from work, Tyrell, we all three got drawn for mule deer in zone 23 together. And that's a really good zone. I've got a really good friend that owns some land there along Diefenbaker, and he's really nice about letting me take my hunting camper there and hunting in there. But there's the elbow pasture, which is for the most part where everybody, once rifle season starts, that's where everybody goes. And so this is Ryan's first time getting drawn for antlered mule deer because he's 14, right? He only, so 12, 13, and 14. So he was in the draw for 3 years. And he was just the year before they made the D pool. So he got to start in A pool. So he was actually second year of Super A, and I was in the first year of Super A. So I put as the first year I could put Ryan in with me on a lot of the animals, and it was, which is exciting because I mean it kind of sucks being off kilter with your kid. But anyways, so the three of us got drawn out of zone 23, and I went archery hunting and muzzleloader hunting and just couldn't find a good enough buck. And once rifle opened up, the pasture opened up in Elbow as well. So the three of us packed up and we went on a day trip to zone 23. And we're getting into the evening. And as it must have been about 45 minutes of legal shooting time left. And we're on our way out because we know that if we get to a certain point in the pasture, then we kind of backtrack. We usually, the deer will come out. So just like clockwork, we got a couple miles from being out of the pasture, and there was a buck that was right off the trail. And I made a deal with Ryan that he was going to shoot anything because it was his first draw buck tag that we didn't care what he got. I just wanted him to enjoy it. And so I told Ryan that he should shoot this deer, and it was only about 50 yards away at the time. So as he got out and out of the truck, and he got his gun loaded and stuff like that, and fiddled around just a little bit, it's not like he didn't take very long. The deer went over a rise, and he couldn't see him anymore. So him and I walked up this rise, and the buck and another buck ran kind of northbound, and then they hunkered eastbound, and they went to about 400 yards, and then they just stopped. I don't know what they were doing, but they just stopped. And so I said to Ryan, well, let's run up to this poplar bluff and get a good rest, and maybe you might get a chance at one of the deer, because they weren't running anymore. They were more interested in themselves. I think they were fighting. And so we ran up to this poplar bluff, and I looked over the deer, and I said, the one on the right's the one that you want to try to get. And he leaned up on a poplar tree, and he asked me where he should hold. And I said, well, I had my rangefinder, but I didn't range it at the time. I said, just hold on the top of his back, because I knew it was pretty far. I was estimating 300 yards. And so he shoots, and I'm looking through the binoculars, and I could see above him the ground, because they were in a bit of a depression. So there was ground immediately behind these deer. And I could see as he shot over them that the dirt flew up. And I was like, okay, so hold right on him this time, because he didn't even move. Like it was like he was oblivious to the shot. Ryan chambers another round there, and he shoots him, and the deer kind of humps up. I knew right away he hit him in the shoulder, and kind of milled around in a circle and then laid down. So Tyrell and Ryan, I said, why don't you guys walk up to the deer and make sure he's dispatched. I'll go back and get the truck and the knives and stuff like that. So I was walking my way back to the truck, and I looked at those guys, and they're waving like crazy at me. So I just ran over to them, and by now they had worked their way up to where the deer was. Oh, before that, I ranged it. It was 425 yards. And so I ran up to these guys, and I said, what's going on? And Ryan said, Dad, you won't believe this, but that other buck won't leave mine alone, and was actually attacking it while it was dead. So he was just ramming into the dead deer. So Tyrell had a tag, and Tyrell says to me, he goes, that's a pretty nice deer. And he goes, I can't not pass it up. So I go ahead. So I'm looking. By this time, we're only 75 yards away from the deer. And He shoots it and it drops it right at the feet of Ryan's deer. So we had 2 deer down. And so we walk over there together and I look at Ryan's deer and the ass end of Ryan's deer was all tore up from that buck. He was just piling into that dead deer. I've never seen that. I've heard of that happening with elk and stuff, but I've never seen a live deer attack a dead deer before. He just must have been running so hard. So it was pretty cool. They got 2 deer side by side to each other. It's pretty cool.
That's a good
That's
story.
pretty good.
Blair, go ahead.
Oh, I've had lots of good hunts this fall. A lot of good waterfowl hunts. Well, even with Muc, look at his bunny hug, slob mob.
Yeah.
We got to go hunting together on quite a few good goose shoots. Muc got his first banded Canada.
Yeah, that's a big deal for me. I'm gonna get that bird mounted.
Mounted, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the waterfowl hunts were fun. It was a fall with no guiding going on. I had a wide open fall to do as much hunting as I could, and I did it all: elk, moose, mule deer, whitetail, bear, but I think I went on 15 or 16 goose shoots, and Muc was on 4 of them for sure. Like when Mike Freeze had come down, we had some really good shoots and lots of fun and lots of laughs. Like when Landon come up with his dog, Landon's that's one of the best waterfowl labs I've seen in 30 some years. Like that dog is phenomenal. I've never seen a lab with that kind of temperament, work hard, grab them big birds like that. I was totally impressed. Like a phenomenal dog.
Blair, I talking about the waterfall hunt, the hunt that we did when we were archery elk hunting, when we spotted that field.
Oh yeah.
Was hands down the best waterfall hunt I have ever been on. It was we forfeited a morning of elk hunting to go goose hunting, and it was like the best day. Well, the best 45 minutes because it would happen so quickly. We had a 4-man limit, and Dawson got some awesome footage on that.
Well, it was a late night too. The night before, we're getting Dawson's elk out.
Right.
By the time we got it skinned and everything done, and then it was like we had to get up at 3:34 in the morning and get Latane to come there, and like that was a heck of a shoot. Banded birds, snows, Canadas, and then there was a albino Canada.
Right.
And that banded Canada, and that was fun.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights of the year for me.
Well, even that time I phoned you and you left Regina at 2 or 3 in the morning and come on that hunt.
Yeah, so Blair calls me. He's like, Tony and Keith have this field spotted. You should drive. And I'm like, what do you mean drive? He's like, drive to Priestville to my house. And I'm like, dude, that's 4-hour drive. He's like, and I was like really, really on the fence about doing it. So I'm like texting back and forth with Blair. And finally he just calls me, says, just come. So 2 in the morning, I pack up and I drive to Priestville, get there at 5 o'clock. And that was also an epic hunt. Those probably 2 are highlights of my year for waterfowl for sure.
Yeah. And then that hunt with those hunts with Mike, when Landon come with his dog, those were fun hunts. We killed a lot of combo birds, ducks and geese and snows and everything. That was amazing.
Right.
That was a big group of us too that time.
Darren, you got anything that stands out for you this year?
You know what? I didn't, obviously the bear hunt, Muc, I know is only one evening with a couple hours with you, but it was nice to get out to the stand. And I know you're passionate about it. You've been after me for a number of years to come out. So that was good. I spent some time just whitetail hunting, just had my kids in the stand and, had my target deer come in a couple of times, and I actually missed him at a malfunction at the junction with my bow, and just to see my son's reaction of that was interesting. But one I had an older gentleman come out. He's a retired teacher and he's probably 60 some years old. He has been hunting since he was a young boy, and he called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, do you mind if you could take me hunting?" And I was like, "Sure." So I got him all lined up with clothing and told him how to use the online stuff to get his license and all that jazz. That was interesting. He came out for me one time, and then the COVID regulations came in about social distancing and from other households and stuff. So, but we spent an evening right after school, basically right till dark watching the stand, and he was pretty excited to see. It was exciting to see his reaction, and it kind of reminded me of my son, the reaction when deer were coming in, and his reaction to watching them, and he was just content. I know he wanted to shoot a deer, but he was content with just what all happened, and there's a pecking order when it comes to the baits and stuff like that, and he took it all in. And at the end of the shoot, he's like, the COVID regulations are coming in, so probably won't be able to go back out. He goes, but this is very exciting, and thank you for taking me. So I thought that was very unique, something to be able to share that experience with him. Um, one of the cool stories this year is my kids want a fishing boat in the worst way, like really bad. They're big into fishing. They just want a boat, and I'm kind of from the old school where you have to earn the toys you get, and so forth. And I made a deal with them that we would get a boat, but they had to earn it. So they were like, okay, what can we do? So they were, cutting grass and pushing snow, and they've been selling firewood. But earlier than that, they wanted to go pick sheds because they had found out you could pick sheds and make money doing that. So I was pretty pleased. They picked 135 pounds of sheds this year.
Wow.
So they're pretty fired up for that. So they had a little bit of help from their grandpa, had some mule deer sheds in his garage, but most of the sheds they picked were their own, and they're pretty excited. When I was counting out the $100 bills there for the next morning, their eyes popped out of their heads seeing that they made a few bucks doing that. So it's pretty motivating. There was nothing of any big size, but they got right into it. They had the bathroom scale outside, and they're weighing sheds and marking sheds with pieces of tape how much this was, and they had it all color coordinate, the whites and the mids and the browns. And so it was exciting. And we put on, school, after school hours, we would work all morning on school stuff, and when 3:30 hit, we were on the road. And I don't know how many kilometers we put on. The one day we put on like 18 kilometers looking for sheds. And yeah, it was pretty good. We put a lot of kilometers on this year looking for sheds, and we struck out lots, but they're pretty motivated. They're gung-ho, and they learned a lot by just being out in the bush. So that was good.
Well, Darren, I know that you're a big family guy. Um, this year, having your oldest being able to hunt is just going to be epic for you, because I think back to 3 years ago when Ryan's first year was, I basically stepped away from hunting for myself because I'm like you. I'm kind of from the old school where our dads taught us to do it, and while this might be a different era, we still like to hand down some of that tradition. And for me, when I hunted for the first time, that was my whole life was hunting back then. I missed school for it and stuff like that. So when Ryan turned 12, I mean, he got a bear, he got a big whitetail, he got two mule deer does, he got pheasant. I took him out two goose hunts. He got his first goose and his first duck. What else did he get? Whitetail. He got a really big whitetail, his very first deer, which is I got mounted for him. So for you with your son coming up this year, I know that I couldn't put into words on this program what the feelings were when Ryan was successful. Now, obviously, when he got his bear was really good, but I'll tell you, the most rewarding hunt that him and I shared in his first year, hands down, was when he got a mule deer doe with his muzzleloader. The hug I got from him that after he did it, because it was a really tough hunt. It was cold. We had to crawl on our hands and knees, and he made a 120-yard shot with a muzzleloader on this mule deer doe. Now it was just a doe, but it could have been the biggest buck in the world, because when he shot that thing, it was just the embrace we had is something that you can only have with your child. And so, Darren, I know when you take your kids out this year, you're going to be no different. You're going to be like, you know what? Who cares about my hunting this year? I'm going to let him do it. And that's the way I was. And because you know what? They'll never remember their best video game, but they'll always remember their hunts. And that's why I always said to Ryan, like, I'm going to make when you're 12, I want to make it epic like it was when I was 12. I mean, he's got his whole lifetime to make his memories with hunting and stuff like that, and we're not always going to be there, but that first year is kind of like his driver's license. We can be there for that.
Yeah, I look forward to it. It's gonna be good. So
that's an awesome idea too, about fundraising for kids, getting kids in the classroom out picking sheds. That is like a bottle drive. I never even thought of that. I love that idea.
Yeah.
Go out and pick sheds. You're raising money, and that's the best social distancing, especially now, is get kids outdoors and picking sheds and that, because there's, like you said, you can get $16 to $18 a pound. It's a good fundraiser.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
they're pretty excited, and they really wanted to find an elk shed. Like that was Nate and I found a monster moose shed. It had been sitting for a couple of years, and it was I think it was palm up. So the inside was white, but the backside had been in the ground. It was still brown. It
Oh.
was huge. It took the front rack of my quad. It was that massive, and Nate carried it out. We looked for the other side, and we couldn't find it. But he carried that thing out, and he was proud. He had that thing on his back. He was carrying it, and then after a while, he's like, "Dad, I can't carry it." And that thing weighed almost 15 pounds. It was a huge shed.
If the boys
Uh,
want an elk shed, I got a big 6 point they can have.
well, we found one. We had made a big loop, and they're in elk country, kind of around this area. We know there's lots of elk, and we found a couple of deer sheds, and they were just determined they were going to get an elk shed. They're just, we got to find one. So I took them through some pretty nasty stuff on the elk trail. We had lots of track and lots of trail, and we made a big loop around a beaver dam. We were coming back, and I seen it. It was up against a tree. It was leaning up against a tree, and it was weathered one side, so it was a year or two old already. And they were walking on the trails, and they split the trail, and they went the wrong way. And if they had gone the other way, they had seen. I called them back. I was like, "You guys, you see that?" And they're like, "What? What?" And here it was, and it's okay. Like it was a pretty good shed, but they're pretty pumped to find that. And then we went actually down to one of my customers I did some fencing for. They have a lot of elk down in their property too, and same thing. We put on a ton of miles that day, just tons and tons and tons. But Nate actually found it's probably, I don't know, about 2.5 feet long. The thing is an absolute war club. It's from the base to right where it starts to branch off. That thing is, I can't get my hands around it. The end of that club is like that. It's just a massive, massive war club. And he was pretty pumped. It was all weathered. It looked like I actually thought it was a leg bone from a cow. And I got up there, and he's like, "Dad, look at this." And he's carrying this thing, and it's just a freaking massive, massive piece of bone. So I got it in the garage, and he was pretty excited. He's like, "Oh man, imagine we would have found this thing in its prime." I was like, "Yeah." I said, that's a big elk. But of course, it had been sitting there for years, and the guy had fed his cattle and stuff in there. It was all trampled over and stuff. But that was a pretty cool find, and he's pretty excited about that. He even has the first shed that he found. It's about a little spiker, and I don't even know how he found it. Honestly, it was on the trail, and it's just a little spiked deer that he's got. He's got it up in his room. So it's just little things like that that just kind of resonate with you, and they don't take for granted. And it was something that I made a deal with them. Is like, you know what, you got to earn it, and I don't think there's enough that happens these days. And like I said, they're pretty busy doing this stuff right now because they really want a boat, but
How
uh,
close are they to getting the boat?
they're still a ways away. Yeah, so we sold almost 20 truckloads of wood and over 100 bags of wood. So they're pretty dedicated to retrieving and doing the splitting and stuff. But it's just the sense that the reward of accomplishment, right, is doing the
Mm-hmm.
themselves. And then when they do have enough money to buy the boat, they'll take it seriously, and they'll look after it and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, fellas, I think we should wind her up, but I've got to say thank you for your dedication to the program, your guys' knowledge. I think the personalities we've had on here um, go bodes well with the questions that we brought to them, and the fact that people that watch these programs got a lot of amazing information out of it. It wouldn't be the program if it wasn't for you two guys, and I couldn't thank you enough. Um, I think this year is just going to be just as good, uh, bringing people back and new people I'm blown away at the people that actually watch the program, because we really are to one specific group, and that's the outdoorsman or the hunter or the fisherman. And so I don't know, sometimes I feel like maybe people don't watch it, but you just when you think that you're gonna I'm going to give up on it. Somebody says, I watch a show and they got the tip. And I've always, every seminar that I've ever done, I've always said, if one person gains something from it, that's all that matters from me,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's not about you or me or anything like that. It's how to make people better. And so, I mean, I got to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for taking your time to do these. And we lost Blair. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Right.
So, um, yeah, so we got a great, we had a great year. COVID never held us back. If anything, I've got some of the best, most closest friends I think I'll ever have because of COVID. Uh, Darren, I guarantee we have never done this if it wasn't for COVID. Uh, with you being as busy you are with at school and then with your family. Blair, same thing to you. I got to tell you, folks, this guy is the all-around sportsman. And if you ever want to learn how to call geese, sit in the goose blind with Blair and listen to him call and bring in geese. And then of course the chatter that goes with it. He can't shoot that great, but
Oh, yeah.
this
I got
earpiece.
lots of video footage of the shots I made.
I think Muc, there's a silver lining in this whole thing, and uh, I've been telling people that a lot. Like, a lot of people dwell on the negative of COVID, and I've talked to and Blair will know this person. I talked to Wayne up in Kamsack at Saskam Sportsman, and Wayne was telling me this has been the best year he's had for sales of outdoor sporting equipment. So I think a lot of people are getting back out to the outdoors. I groom the ski trails here in the park in town, and they're jam packed with people walking their dogs and going with their families, and they got sleds and they got their skis on and their snowshoes and stuff. So if there's a silver lining with this whole thing, I think people have gone back to the outdoors, and
Yeah.
I think that's also with hunting. I think hunting numbers, if they were to do the surveys, I think they're going to find that the hunting numbers are up this year. People are out doing something. The fishing, ice fishing stuff, there's shacks all over the place and people are out ice fishing. So if there's a silver lining in this whole thing, it's getting back with family and getting back, out to the outdoors and hanging out. People are going out instead of hanging out in their houses, they're outside having an outside barbecue and stuff like that. So if there is a silver lining, it's that type of thing. And
Yeah.
I also want to echo that message to you guys as well. Like you can have your own TV show and you can have sponsorships and you can have all those different things, but it's grassroots people like yourselves, both you, Muc and Blair, that I think a lot of people have learned a lot of things from just the tips, and a lot of our guests are down home grassroots people as well, and they picked a lot of tips up, and lots of connections were made. If it's you join each other on Facebook and now you're friends, or you reach out and you're getting conversations started, or you can reach out for a reference. I want to thank you guys for those connections as well, and with our guests as well. So
Yeah, it was awesome. It really was. There's a couple of people that I met through COVID and through the outdoors that are dear friends of mine now. I don't think I'd ever been good friends with if it wasn't for that and how this has brought it together. And like I said, we're just getting going here. Like I said at the beginning, guys, if you liked our program, just hit the like on the Facebook page or on YouTube, All Outdoors. Hit subscribe and the bell that way you get notified, because we try to do one of these every once a month or something like that. So 2021, guys, what do you got planned for this year? Real quick, and then we're gonna go.
Oh,
well,
I got spring. I'm gonna want spring bear hunting and spring snow goose this year for sure, because I don't think the border is going to be open. I don't be doing any guiding, and I'm super A for everything again. So I'm hoping to get drawn for something and have a good fall in that, but just have a good outdoor and take like I said, I'm going to take my 8-year-old daughter with me everywhere on every hunt that I can. And I want to give back to the outdoors. I love helping people out and doing stuff like this. It's just, I love it. As much as it's going to suck not to guide again this year, because I honestly don't have faith that the border is going to open this year the way things are going again. It's going to be another tough year. But like I said, instead of dwelling on the negative, do something positive. Like get outdoors, help out, like meet new friends like we did. Like this year was phenomenal. What we did with the elk and waterfowl, it was fun.
I look forward to obviously my son being eligible to go hunting this year. I'm same thing as Blair. I got super A for everything. I've been on a drought here with moose and elk, and I'm afraid to put in for both because I'll probably get drawn for both. So I'm hoping that I get drawn for elk, and my buddy Muc gets drawn as well, and we can do that. Hint, hint. I'd like to be part of this waterfowl hunt you guys have been doing. I think that'd be interesting. But yeah, I just want to, I think 2021. I'm hoping that things will come around and we can offer a Parkland Outdoor Show this year.
Yes.
I know a lot of people in the industry, they need to make a living, and I know we have some great people that attend our show and that run our show that really are hinging on that show, and they get a lot of products sold. And for those people that are out buying and you're needing gear, shop as local as you can. Shop
Yeah.
those people that have been to our show and that put dollars back into the funding that we raise money for kids. So if you're going to spend some money, go to those vendors first and spend some money instead of maybe some of those big box stores and chains. But I think 2021, with all the challenges we've got coming up, I think there is silver lining. We just got to find it for ourselves.
I mean, I can't believe I forgot about the Parkland Outdoor and Show and Expo. As far as this is why this, I mean, everything that Darren, you and I done as friends together is because of that show. Uh, I've told people this, and I generally mean it. I will be a fan, and I'll help out at that show as long as you want me, because it really is exactly what we want to give back to people. And I mean, some of my best friends in the whole world come out of that show. And I mean, and when it comes to this program, the amount of personalities we get is directly related to the Parkland Outdoor Show and Expo. And yeah, I mean, we got to get that going again. We've got to meet there. We've got to it's got to go. And I'm glad.
It's the best outdoor show in Canada. I mean, it's a Canadian version of the SHOT Show, ATA show. Like, it's just a phenomenal outdoor show. Yeah, it'd be awesome to have it again.
We're hoping that it comes around, because there's people that are chomping at the bit to get it organized and to have our friends return. And it's all around. It's one of the greatest weekends of the year that I have. It's a lot of work that goes into with my board, but when you get to sit down and talk outdoors and talk kids and talk to the people that are grassroots, and it is a great event, and it's good for our community. It's also good for the hunting community as well. So
yeah, for sure. And you guys run a great 3D shoot with it. I mean, there's so many things about that show that just it's amazing, and we got to get it back. And at the end of the day, the money's raised, and what's important and where it goes is the big thing.
You know what? And like the Yorkton Melville area of the province, to me, has the most sportsmen out of the whole province are in our region. You know what I mean? We have the most sports-minded people, most sportsmen. I even noticed that with the Wildlife Federation. We have the most Wildlife Federation members in our Yorkton, Melville, Hudson Bay region. Like the most sportsmen out of the whole province.
So just before we go, if you guys have any ideas that you want us to do a program on, leave us a comment. Darren and Blair are both on Facebook as well as myself. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be to All Outdoors with Muc Simons, but if you have an idea for a show, by all means, if you want to be on our show as a guest, we'll bring anybody on here to talk about anything. Feel free to get a hold of us. So thanks guys for a great 2020. 2021 is going to be even better. And we're going to have some great programs. And thanks for all your effort. And thanks to everybody that watched and participated.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, everybody.
But yeah, thanks you guys.
Yeah. Thanks, fellas.